Hey, everybody, what's up? Welcome into the Athletic Fantasy Football Podcast. It is Thursday, December 30th. It is the Thursday of Fantasy Football Championship Week. Teams will be crowned, trophies will be lifted, all of that coming our way in just a few short days. And our last one of these of the season. We'll still be coming at you during the off season, but this is our last one of these episodes of the season. So let's make it count, Michael. Well, I know, and I'm going to talk about that in a second. You hear Michael Beller, that's me talking to you. You hear Jake Seeley butting in the conversation. Jake, it is my last one for a while. I've got paternity leave ahead of me for a couple of months.
I know, we swap out you for Nando, basically. Like all these people having babies over here. What the hell?
Yeah, it's a perfect little tag team. We're like the New Age Outlaws. Me and Nando. And there you go, Jake. You're always talking about wrestling. I never know what you're talking about. But I was a WWF fan once upon a time, and it was back in that era. So I've still got the Road Dogg.
Come back to WWE right now. Just if you're going to watch, you could just go straight to AEW, just for everybody out there.
Yeah, I'm not going to do it, but everyone else out there, I trust Jake's opinion on this one. So, I'm going to be out for a couple of months on paternity leave. Nando DeFino going to be coming back from paternity leave and sliding right into my chair. It's perfect. He's going to get to have fun with you, Jake, and Funston, you too.
Yeah, what's January and February look like in Wisconsin?
Cold. As you know, I'm not in Wisconsin. I live in Chicago, but it's cold.
Yes.
It's cold in Wisconsin.
It's cold in Chicago too. Yeah.
Right?
Sorry, you wearing your Wisconsin Badgers, and that kind of just threw me off for a second. But yeah,
Las Vegas Bowl later tonight. Badgers and Arizona State. Let's do it. Let's get a win, Badgers.
Did the heat wave that I'm sitting in, did that not rush through your area, Beller? Because
I mean, it was.
I've been in the 70s. I've had the air conditioner on this entire week.
It was unseasonably warm for a few days in Chicago, but even in December, that means like 41 degrees.
Oh, no, it's been in the 70s.
I'm getting the real Chicago
Saturday
weather.
Yeah, you are.
We had like 2 inches of snow last night. Another 2 inches. So yeah, it's still coming.
I'll trade you.
I'll take
I like
70
snow.
degrees. I will trade you in a heartbeat.
No, I want one. So first of all, I like the 40s because I like being able to wear my jackets and hoodies and stuff like that.
Yeah,
but
sure.
also, I just want one good snow. One.
Yep.
Good, mostly because Virginia Beach can't handle it. Also, if we have like a half an inch, the entire city shuts down. So that's why I say one good snow.
Yeah, I like snow from like the day after Thanksgiving through New Year's Day. I'm thumbs up to snow, and then after that, it's just a nuisance. So I'm hoping that we get something.
It's the white stuff with like that gray shadowing on the top of it from like all the dirt. It's like it just hasn't gone away.
It's no good.
It's good for one shovel. After that, forget about it.
Yeah.
If you're shoveling
twice,
Yeah,
right. Exactly. It's a nuisance at that point. Not a nuisance though if you're still playing fantasy football, right? Because then you are feeling very good about yourself. So we're gonna do things a little bit differently here on this episode. As you know, if you've been with us all season on these Thursday episodes, we've been going through game by game, talking about who to start here, who to start there, just talking all the games through. At this point, we have done that to death. And so we're just going to have a little bit of fun with championship week matchups. Check the link as Jake's got the shirt on right now. For any start-sit questions you might have, it is very easy to follow along. Plus, Jake gets paid by check the link mention. So we got to get that in there every now and again so he can really capitalize on these last few weeks of the fantasy season. So instead of doing that, instead of going game by game, we're just going to throw out some fun questions that have something to do either directly or at least tangentially with fantasy football championship week here in week 17. Let's get going, guys. Jonathan Taylor and Cooper Kupp, they've been sort of the story of the fantasy football season. I'd be willing to bet that something like 80% of championships have at least one of those guys in them, and maybe like 40% have both of those guys in them. So in a world where you can only have one of those guys on your team this week, and for the sake of this conversation, we're going to assume Carson Wentz is indeed able to play for the Colts over the weekend. Who would you want on your team right now, week 17, Jonathan Taylor or Cooper Kupp? Jake, what do you got?
I will take the ever running out of options position in the running back, and I'll take Jonathan Taylor mostly because last week was a bad game for Jonathan Taylor, and look at what he did. It was a bad game. He still scored double digits. Trust me, I know, because I did not advance, because I needed Jonathan Taylor to have like about 25 for me to advance, because I had Lamar Jackson and Travis Kelce in the same week. So those are those kind of teams. Those are the teams that have Jonathan Taylor and didn't advance. Look, you can make the same argument for Cooper Kupp. Of course. It's just we can find more options at wide receiver. You're more able to overcome certain situations. So, if you can give me a running back that his worst game is double-digit points, I'm just going to take the running back every single time when it's equitable.
See, I feel like there's a decent amount of RB2-3s that have surfaced this week, and we talked about a lot of them on Monday. Guys that suddenly are in the picture, and I feel like things get murkier and a lot more dicey as you get farther out in the wide receiver position in a similar area. And Cooper Kupp, I don't know if you could ask for a better secondary to go against right now. Like literally, if you're wish casting your favorite secondary to play against, it's going to be the Ravens.
Yep.
Jonathan Taylor hasn't caught a pass in 3 straight games. Like again, it's splitting hairs. I think these guys are averaging exactly 21.6 half PPR points per game, both of them. So you're getting the same value either way, but I'm going to give the slight edge to Cooper Kupp.
Yeah, we saw what T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and Tyler Boyd did against this Ravens secondary last week. It is just as banged up this week as it was a week ago. It's going to be fun. I actually have in my home league where I am not in the championship, one person has Jonathan Taylor and the other person has Cooper Kupp. So I'm excited for that to be like the center of gravity in their matchup, and watch if indeed the person who gets the most out of their A+, A1 superstar is the person who ends up being our league's champion. So just something fun to talk about as we get into this week 17. Let's keep this theme going, guys. If you have fill in the blank, if you have this player on your team, you'll be lifting a trophy on Monday. This is not obviously 100%, but just who is it? Who is it? Not Jonathan Taylor, not Cooper Kupp, because we already talked about that. But Funston, who do you think if you have this guy on your team, you're a champion come Monday night?
I'll say Ronald Jones going against the Jets,
Yes.
and I think the Bucs are in a let Brady just run the score up kind of a mode right now. Just get it all out, get vent, and so I can see Ronald Jones getting you like 110 yards and 2 touchdowns, something like that. And so I'll throw out Ronald Jones as the non-super obvious guy.
Correct team, wrong player. It's Antonio
like
Brown.
Yeah,
It's Antonio Brown because he's very close to hitting 3 different bonuses, which gets him $1 million. And Tom Brady is one of the quarterbacks. Like all players try to do
Each
this.
one is like $333K, right? Each bonus.
Yeah, and he can hit all 3, including like one of the 1,000 yards or whatever it is. He gets $1 million basically. Tom Brady can turn $1 million into his pocket for Antonio Brown in one game. And if there's any quarterback, like I said, all players try to do that for each other because they don't care. It's not their money; it's the GM's money, or actually, that's the owner's money.
Owner's money.
But so if you look at it, look, he's going to go out there and make sure Antonio Brown gets his, especially with no Mike Evans. And so I actually have Antonio Brown as my 4th wide receiver this week. I think
wide receiver 4 overall.
Yes, only behind Kupp, Adams, and
Adams,
Jefferson.
Tyreek, Kupp, Adams, Jefferson.
Yeah.
Kupp, Adams, Jefferson, and Antonio. I mean, hey, 10 catches for 101 last week without Mike Evans out there.
You might as well just pencil that in. Go take
right,
all the overs. All the overs, put them in your DFS lineups, do everything.
It's great that it's Brady and getting the Jets too here in Week 17. Something we've seen quite a bit over his career, but now he does it as a Buccaneer. It's going to be a fun one. I think 13.5 is the
Jets were
spread on
like,
that game.
I thought we got rid of this guy.
right. We have to see him here in Week 17. We just want the season to end and be done with it, and we have to see this freaking guy across the field from us. Funston, you just sort of answered this question, so you're going to have to go in a different direction, but I'm going to go to Jake first for this one. A surprise running back that we will most remember as a playoff hero. The guys who always come to mind for me in recent vintage, Noshawn Moreno. Can't remember exactly what season that was. Tim Hightower. Can't remember exactly what season that was, but those were both within the last, 6 years where they were nothing. Mm-hmm. And then the last 3 weeks of the season, they were superstars. We've got a few candidates here. Who do you like best, Jake? Who are we most going to remember 1 year from now? Like, who are we going to be saying, who's 2022's X running back?
Yeah, so I think you have to look at it at a couple factors here, at least for me. One is I'm not looking at somebody specifically just for this week. That doesn't, because they're not a playoff hero.
Right.
And then you have to say somebody who is in your lineups. So I'm taking Jeff Wilson out of the equation because it sounds like Elijah Mitchell should be back, so I don't think he's going to factor this week. Devin Singletary has been kind of hit and miss. Rashad Penny, I'd love to say because I think he's going to do it again this week, but nobody trusted him last week to have them in there. Like some people did, but he wasn't in the majority of lineups last week because of the injury from the week before, so not a lot of people trusted him. Somebody has been very trusted along those lines after the first game. The first game might have been maybe in the lineups, maybe not. But once Sony Michel took over, and then Darrell Henderson with the COVID, and then Darrell Henderson gets injured. So we trusted Sony Michel last week. We trusted Sony Michel the week before that. And now we have to play. He is going to be inside the RB1s this week because they're not going to unleash Cam Akers in this first game back. So Sony Michel is going to end up having turned a lot of teams around in the late season, especially ones that were looking for running back help late.
Yeah, I wasn't really thinking about it as the 3-week run. So I kind of was. I was kind of more circling this game as somebody that would be like for this week. And really, it's for me, it's Boston Scott. I think Boston Scott could be the guy that is a sort of surprise out of nowhere guy that really leads you. And I think he'll be on a lot of teams' active rosters this week. Jordan Howard has the stinger. This has been a team since week 8 that's averaging 30 running back carries per week. Last time they played Washington just a couple weeks ago, they ran for 200 yards at the running back position. So if Boston Scott see, even just a little bit of the leader of that platoon, which I think he will be, I think, touchdowns and 100-plus yards from scrimmage are certainly on the table.
Talked to Bo Wolf, our Eagles beat writer here at The Athletic, on Tuesday's episode, our beat writer episode. And, it was 48 hours ago, so we'd had even less information than what we're working with right now. But obviously, Bo's been very close to the Eagles all season long, has gotten to know Nick Sirianni a bit. And he just said that reading the tea leaves and the way that Nick Sirianni typically talks, and then the way he was talking about Jordan Howard, that on that day, on Tuesday, he was betting against Jordan Howard being out there for the Eagles. And, we'll see. Obviously, like I said, 48 hours have passed, and 48 hours more are going to pass between now and kickoff.
You twisted it. I didn't think that's where you were going. Like the way that you were setting it up, I thought you were saying it's going to be Jordan Howard as the guy again, the way that you were setting that up. So I wasn't expecting that to be the outcome.
Yeah. So, well, following the beat writers, that's what we like to do at The Athletic. That's what we've got them for. And so we'll see. We'll see if that ends up being the case. But Boston Scott's going to have a role to play one way or another. And if Jordan Howard is out with that stinger, he's going to have a monster role to play. So couple of good candidates there, and there's always someone. We know it, guys. So maybe next year we'll be sitting here a year from now and saying who's going to be this year's Boston Scott, who's going to be this year's Sony Michel, because we know that these guys pop up year after year after year. And something else we know is that there's always someone who fits what I'm asking you guys here. I want to go back to Jake's David Montgomery example from Monday to talk about this one. Guys who you are definitely starting, you're not thinking twice about them. They're going to show on your Yahoo or CBS or ESPN projections as giving it like projected for like 11 points. Guys like that, RB2s, wide receiver 2s, low-end QB1s. Who's the guy like that? You're not thinking twice. He's in your lineup for sure. He's been in your lineup all season long. But this is the week he shows up with a monster game, and you're going to be like buying his jersey or something on Tuesday. Who do you got for this one, Funston?
I guess I'll go Javonte Williams. They did not look good in the backfield last week, but you get the Chargers this week. You get, Javonte, as bad as they both were in that backfield, Javonte was better. And maybe this is where you see an even bigger discrepancy in their touches. But I think Javonte Williams, he's a great bet to find the end zone. He's a great bet to put up some decent yards. So I'll say he's a guy that I've been playing as an RB2 all year long, and he's probably a better looking better than most weeks.
All right, Jake. If you heard us chuckling, it was because if you're not watching this on YouTube, Jake was going to the toy rack back here to pull something off.
Sat up behind me.
Well, to show us what he's got for this.
Funston sniped me on the Javonte Williams thing. I was going to say 8 points, 2 games in a row, but you're still starting him. Saved his week with a touchdown last week. And I was going to throw the contingency out there though that Teddy Bridgewater has to be a quarterback. Drew Lock just ruins that team. So I pivoted to his former teammate because I pulled out the signed helmet that I have of Michael Carter say that Michael Carter, it's surprising. I got a lot of questions in the ranks. Are like, do I trust Michael Carter? I was like, did you not just see what he did last week in his second game back when he was healthy? And like, well, what about the passing game? It's like, have you not seen him catch 10 balls? And I understand that Zach Wilson is not as good as throwing to the running backs as most of the other options the Jets have thrown out at quarterback, but against Tampa Bay, this is where you beat him in the passing game and in space. It doesn't only have to be with the receptions. I have Michael Carter as a locked-in RB2, and I have Michael Carter ahead of this guy right here, and I'm not going to say his name because I feel bad about that.
Right. Well,
we can bring him up later, I think.
Yeah, I think we're going to bring him up later, and maybe you could even bring him up now because the next question I have for you guys is the opposite side of this. Someone who, again, you're starting this person. You
said no Saquon in this question.
Oh, yeah, I did say no. We're only because we're talking about him later. I forgot about that, actually. So you're someone who you have a bad feeling about, but you know you're starting them anyway. But we have guys like that, right? That like RB2, low-end QB1, wide receiver 2, those sorts of guys that you're going to start, but there's just you won't be shocked if he gives you like a 4.5-point game. Who do you got here, Jake?
I think it's an easy one because all he's been giving us is 4.5-point games, and people are going to recency bias him at wide receiver and say, "Oh, look, he's back. He chirped and he got his game." I want to find a way to put Amari Cooper back on my bench against Arizona's defense. This could be a game where it's you can run on Arizona. Could be a lot of Zeke, a lot of Pollard. CeeDee Lamb's been the consistent one. I know he didn't score in that game when Dak went bananas. Everybody else did except for CeeDee, but he still got his. And then Dak was out at the halftime, so I just don't know that Cooper has the success again, and I could see him putting up one of that 4 or 5 point games that we saw for weeks on end in championship week, and everyone's just going to be like, son of a... I just went back to Amari Cooper, so I would love to find a way to put Cooper back on the bench.
I will go with, and this is a guy you're not sitting, but certainly you have to have some trepidation about, is Alvin Kamara. I mean, Taysom Hill will be back, but we still haven't seen Taysom Hill really unlock him in the passing game, and maybe he's back. And so
most likely, right?
Most likely. But even with Taysom Hill, this Saints offense has been a box of chocolates. And, Alvin Kamara's had 2 down games in a row. You look at his game against Carolina earlier in the year.
Wait. Has it been a box of chocolates, or has it been a box of chocolates with, like, all that nasty cherry?
Oh, my
orange flavor.
I swear to God, I was going to say the exact same thing. That it's a box of chocolates, but 90% of them have, like, the cherry filling in them.
That pink stuff one in the middle. It's like it's all
no one likes.
It's not really that we don't know what we're going to get, Brandon. It's like
the
it's
back
just
of the box.
The
back of the box grid only exists so you can avoid the one with the
somewhere
cherry.
There's a chocolate covered caramel in there. We're searching for it. Come on, Kamara. We need your caramel to come on out this week.
Oh my God! Yeah, it's bad. It's bad, and I think it certainly could be.
We've officially done too many shows together. If we were both about to say the
I swear to God, 38.5 is the total in that game, or 37.5. One of those on BetMGM. The Saints are favored by 7.5. We have a couple of games, that and the Bears Giants, where you have a total under 40 with a touchdown favorite. That's just disgusting.
That's insane. First of all, could I steal a question? Can I throw a question into our final show? Because what Phil just said actually spurred something. Somebody asked me on my show earlier this week. Do you guys ever trap drop? Yeah. Do you trap drop? Do you and so basically it's like you purposely drop somebody like Amari Cooper. You're like, I know Amari Cooper is going to go belly up this week. I'm not saying for a fact, but you have that feeling. You're like, Amari Cooper's going to get 4. I'm going to drop him so I watch my opponent pick him up, put him in the starting lineup, and then he only gets 4 and ha, I tricked you. Like, would you guys ever do that? Because I've seen a lot of people ask that question this year.
I've thought about it, but I've never actually done it. But it's been in my mind. But that's like
I would think about that with Saquon.
It's too cute by half for me. Right?
Well, because here's the thing, look at Saquon's touchdown game. Even in that game but Saquon with that touchdown was still only about 13 points. Yeah, I'm just saying.
That's true.
Let's assume the person's this your opponent in the championship game knows what they're doing. Like if you're dropping someone, they're seeing more upside in picking that player up. And as you said, it's like an Amari Cooper or someone like that. Like you do have a little bit of doubt about your feelings of them just completely tanking. So that could backfire on you. So you might be better off just to let them stick with the options they have.
For what it's worth, we're finally getting like a real honest to goodness winter day in Chicago on Sunday. It's going to be like 20 degrees, wind chill in the single digits.
Well, they just got to warm up. They just got to warm up in Seattle for that too. So,
I mean, imagine being like 4-11 and playing in that weather.
Oh, sure. But the thing is, it's like I've been checking because I've been watching Chicago, Seattle, and Green Bay. It's all super cold, but there's no precipitation or wind.
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing. Like Green Bay's supposed to be in the single digits by that game on Sunday night.
Really, on Sunday night?
Yeah.
Brutal. With all those guys.
What do we call that? Like Tomageddon instead of Tovid now because it's going to be so cold?
I like that. There's so many guys that we're excited about in that game, and we are going to lead into that a little bit later in this show. But now, got to give you guys something from our sponsors here. Let's talk about BlockFi for a second. Cashback credit card rewards, so 2020. And it's 2022 in like 48 hours, you guys. So you don't want to do something that's so 2020. Earn Bitcoin instead. BlockFi has the world's first Bitcoin rewards credit card that lets you earn an unlimited 1.5% in Bitcoin on all qualifying purchases. Grow your Bitcoin portfolio when you buy groceries, when you pay your bills, when you fill up at the gas tank, whatever it might be. You're going to get 1.5% back in Bitcoin on all qualifying purchases purchases. There are no reward limits. There are no annual fees, no foreign transaction fees, just Bitcoin earned on every single qualifying purchase. BlockFi is a leader in crypto, named to Forbes FinTech 50 list in 2021. And right now, our listeners are going to get a bonus of $25 in crypto after making their first purchase with the card when you sign up at blockfi.com/fantasy. Again, that's $25 on the first purchase with the card, but you have to use our URL, blockfi.com/fantasy. Not all are eligible. Geographic, regulatory, and underwriting restrictions apply. Fees and terms subject to change. Additional terms of service are at blockfi.com. BlockFi is a financial technology company. Banking services provided by Evolve Bank and Trust. Member FDIC. Okay, guys. So here's one I was just digging around for fun stuff from last season, and I found this, what I thought was kind of fun. Andy Dalton was the QB3 in Week 16 championship week last year of 2020. Samaje Perine was the RB3. Nelson Aguilar, the wide receiver 5. So with that in mind, Jake Seeley, who's this year's shocking championship week stud?
The shocking one? I'll give you the shocking one. I'm going back to the same game and team and passing game that I mentioned earlier, along with Antonio Brown, is Brashard Perriman. Now that he's back off COVID list, the fun that we thought we might get with Tyler Johnson last week did not happen.
No, it didn't.
Actually, it was a big fat 0 for everybody that made that scramble pickup. Hey, look, I had him in the 40s too. I thought Tyler Johnson would be relevant, but Brashard Perriman, big play waiting to happen. I understand the concern, of course, is that how is he feeling after COVID, because we've seen a lot of players come back and not look great. But Jalen Waddle did, and the good thing is a lot of the guys who are coming back early, like around Sunday, Monday, usually look pretty good by the next week. It's the guys like Tyreek Hill that went all the way up to the day before that are the ones that seem to be, we're guessing here, but seem to be more effective. So I'm looking for Brashard Perriman to get involved along with Tom Brady. Tom Brady's coming off a bad game. He's looking to go out there and put up 4 touchdowns on those Jets, and Brashard Perriman's going to have 90 yards and maybe even 2 of them.
Why are you ignoring this backfield, Jake? This is a situation for everybody to eat, and so I'll say Keyshawn Vaughn. We mentioned him on Monday. I just counted it up. There has been 9 running backs that were not the starting running back for the team that have scored double-digit fantasy points against the Jets.
This has been your hobby horse all season. RB2s against the Jets, RB2s against the Jaguars.
Yes, occasionally burned by that, but only occasionally. I think we saw 7 carries from Keyshawn Vaughn, a big play. Maybe we'll see 10 carries, 11 carries, 12 carries this week. I think they're going to be up big, and I think they're going to let Keyshawn Vaughn get a little bit more run in this one. So I will
Derek
throw
Moore
him
gets
out.
more than Keyshawn Vaughn this week.
Ooh, Brandon Marianne Lee's with you on that,
Derek Gore
Jake.
on that. Yeah.
Brandon Marianne Lee was making a big case for Derek Gore on yesterday's show.
So you have no problem with that.
I would take the bet though, so we can talk
Keyshawn
about that
Vaughn?
next week.
We would?
Let's make it official. Get your little pen out, Bella. Write that down.
He's not going to be here.
Gore. Yeah. I'll send it to Nando. I'll pass along all my side bet notes to Nando for sure.
Would you start Keyshawn Vaughn over Ramondre Stevenson?
No.
Okay. I just want to look. I want to make it clear for everybody out there.
Honestly actually thought about throwing out Ramondre on this question as well. He was my
15.5-point favorites, Patriots against the Jaguars this week. Biggest spread.
Well, okay, so it's a J.J. Taylor game is what you're telling me.
Yeah, J.J. Taylor and Brandon Bolden. They're going to go out for us here in Week 17. This sort of leads us into the next question, because you guys have now talked about a big sort of bounce-back game for Tom Brady, Antonio Brown, Ronald Jones, Keyshawn Vaughn, Brashard Perriman. So what's going to be the best real-life game for fantasy purposes? And by that, I mean, like, for example, Chiefs and Bengals. There are, 8 for sure, no doubt about it, fantasy starters in that game. What's the game that has, 4 or 5 plus, no doubt about it, fantasy starters, where you feel confident in all of those dudes coming through for you? What do you got for us, man? We got some good games. Chiefs, Bengals, Cowboys, Cardinals, Packers, Vikings. What do you think, Funston?
I'm just going to go with Chiefs Bengals. That's to me has all the offensive studs, and the defenses are fine, but they're not just lockdown defenses. And Kansas City's been getting better, but you could see this one falling into a track meet. And the defenses are there for the ride, but this turns into all about the offenses. And there's as you mentioned, there's just a ton of them. So I'm going to stick with that one and not try to get too cute.
Yeah, Giants Bears.
You got David Montgomery. You've got Justin Fields. You've got Saquon
Hey, David
Barkley.
Montgomery's going to have a wonderful two-week run, especially with this next one. No, I was going to say the same one because here's the thing: is Minnesota, Green Bay. We could try to play the Lazard versus Valdez-Scantling game. We assume Valdez-Scantling is going to be back. I mean, everybody's coming back from COVID now. Mike Williams, we're assuming he's going to be back too. But in that game, you're trying to play games with those. It could be Aaron Jones splitting a lot with A.J. Dillon. They both could be in play. On the flip side, does K.J. Osborne get a touchdown or not? Now Conklin looks like he might not even been playing. So there's only about like 3 guarantees in that game. Like I want Dalvin Cook, I want Justin Jefferson, I want Adams, and I still probably want Jones. But if you're talking about an overall game, I mean, if you look at Baltimore, I don't even know if we're going to feel good about starting Lamar Jackson. I mean, that video circulated all day long yesterday. About the fact that he was like, did he not? He looked like he was running on ice, like the way that he was trying to run, like that's keep himself up.
How have we never asked Jeff Zrebick, our Ravens beat writer, what the deal is with that Ravens practice field?
Is that like the most disgusting looking practice?
Yeah.
When I saw that video, I was like, is there something wrong with their practice facility? Like, are they at a college somewhere we don't know about?
I mean, I played on much nicer high school fields every single game I ever played.
Well, I didn't. I went to a private school, and we graduated 33 kids, so all the schools that we played on, we know. Our football field was so bad you could see the slant from one side to the other, and if it ever rained, the water puddled up. This is the best thing. The water puddled up so deep that it was the opposing team's sideline. They were standing in, like, ankle-deep mud and water.
Man,
of course you wouldn't make it the home team sideline.
Yeah, of course.
But it's the home field advantage, kind of.
Yeah, right? That's like letting the grass in the infield grow a little bit when you've got a ground ball pitcher on the mound. I love that.
Yeah, it was kind of smart if you think about it.
All right, Jake, you mentioned maybe you're not feeling great about Lamar Jackson. We'll talk about him specifically in a second, and he's playing in an early game. But we have a few guys like that, some late game injury headaches, possibly James Conner, Eli Mitchell, the Lions running backs with DeAndre Swift getting back into practice. Funston, how are you handling some of these late kick injury headaches, assuming that we don't get something cleared up in the next 48 hours or so?
Well, I mean, the nice thing is we know how all of these injuries play out in terms of the replacements and things like that. So, I'm not playing any week 17 championships, so I'm not really handling it. But it's like
for the people who are better at fantasy than
I
you
think
and
we
our
feel like we
Funston.
know that DeAndre Swift. I think we already know DeAndre Swift is practicing in full. He's playing. And it's looking like Elijah Mitchell's looking good as well. So I think you just kind of have to, find your contingencies in the late game like we always do. But I think these things will probably be figured out before Sunday.
I think that still James Conner, the game time decision might be up in the air. But you said, you have contingency plans to wait for in the afternoon. And some of them might be the options we're talking about here. That would be the one I feel the worst about. It sounds like you said, Elijah Mitchell sounds like should be good to go. Maybe if you want to say James Conner, you can pivot to A.J. Dillon in the night game. I'm trying to think of who else you could even play. Jamal Williams would be like almost. I don't even want to go that far. I might just try to play somebody in the one game, and that's the problem. Is that Carolina? I don't really want to go to Abdullah or Hubbard in that game. Maybe Tony Pollard would be the only way I wait on James Conner. He would be out of this entire group. He's the one I'm most concerned about, just because last week they said he might be a game time decision, and then he wasn't even close last week. So he's the one I'm concerned about.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely the one to keep an eye on, and I mean that has some downstream effect on Chase Edmonds. Although we're all playing Chase Edmonds if we've got him, right, and not really worried about Conner playing or not. I mean, you're hoping that Conner doesn't play, but you're still playing him regardless.
Yeah, Edmonds either way, of course.
Yeah. All right, guys. I would bet $100 this wide receiver 3 type outperforms expectations. What do you got for us, Jake?
I'm gonna go with Russell Gage. Because everybody's looking at last week and they're like, well, that's just why we don't trust Russell Gage. The offense threw 23 times. And guess what? He still led the receivers. Yes, Kyle Pitts had the 100 yards, but he was still out there the most. He still saw the targets. He still got the usage. It's just when there's only 23 attempts, that's what happens when Kyle Pitts gets such a big day. But against Buffalo, that's the concern is is they're facing Buffalo defense. And it has been really good. You're not really going to see anybody travel with Russell Gage, and Atlanta's going to have to pass against Buffalo. This is not, unless they shock us. I mean, we've seen it before from Buffalo. We saw them lose to Jacksonville and not even score 10 points. But we expect Buffalo to force Atlanta to try and keep up some type of pace. And if so, Russell Gage should go back to the weeks before that where, he was locked in as he was basically a wide receiver 2 every single week.
I'll throw out Van Jefferson's had 2 bad games in a row. This is an absolutely
Van.
great spot for him. I can see Sony Michel struggling to like something like a 16 for 58 kind of game, and they're really going to have to just pick on that secondary. You look at Baltimore, 68 passes allowed of 20-plus yards, 16 passes of 40-plus yards. Those are both worst in the league. So you're talking
about... It's got to be comfortably worst in the league.
Yeah, they both are comfortably worst. And Van Jefferson is that, he is that air yards guy in this offense. So I can see him getting a big play or two, but I feel pretty good about him outperforming expectations.
Do you have a super sneaky, you never could see this coming type of player in this list? I didn't see that. Did you have a question like that?
I mean, sort of with like the shocking championship week stud.
Shocking. Well, because this is not the shock. This is
that was the Dalton P. Ryan.
No, this is pinch your butthole. Don't look at it. 14 team, 4 wide receiver. Like, I'm just saying.
That's Rashad Perriman.
No, well, this is worse than Rashad Perriman. I'm just saying. Here's why. Look, don't be shocked if Tavon Austin is relevant. Not only look.
How many touches does Tavon Austin have?
Look at what he did last game. How
much time have you spent with Nando recently?
No. There's 2 reasons. There's 2 reasons here. They don't have James Robinson. They can use him out of the backfield, like we've seen with Deebo Samuel. They brought up Sargent off the practice squad from the Rams. And here's the thing about the Patriots defense. The slot is where you can do. Isaiah McKenzie did his work because Jackson was shadowing, and Mills was basically on Emmanuel Sanders. I'm just saying, desperation, big leagues. Tavon Austin.
I don't know if these are championship level issues or problems right here, but well, it's for posterity. It's been logged.
I would start Tavon Austin over like Khalif Raymond's of the worlds and stuff like that. Go. Like I'm just shooting for the ceiling. What do you have? 6 for 68 or something last week?
6 for 68, 7 targets.
There you go.
December 30th.
You're trying to win your consolation bracket.
21.
This is a great dart throw.
31 minutes into the episode, Jake says start Tavon Austin in championship week. We're going to strip all the rest of the context out of it.
Please do. When you tweet it out, just tweet that clip.
I will.
Tavon Austin's bringing home championships.
I'm gonna make one of our fancy athletic quote cards and have it right there. Tavon Austin, wide receiver 1, Jake.
Championship. Lock it up.
Who's the worst player you're going to start over Saquon Barkley? In other words, who's the last running back you have ranked in front of him? Or if you want to talk about who's the last wide receiver in flex rankings? The worst quote player you're starting over Saquon this week, Funston.
Well, I would say the 2 guys that I have ranked in front of Saquon are Devin Singletary and Michael Carter. So Devin Singletary, I guess, would be my worst running back that I'm playing over Saquon.
I mean, I mentioned Michael Carter, so I'll tell you the wide receivers I have just in front of him are Marquise Brown and DJ Moore. Marquise Brown would need Lamar Jackson. He'll slide back if not. But Mike Williams, Marquise Brown, DJ Moore, running backs. You just mentioned that I actually have Swift and Carter. Although Swift is, I will have to see, they practicing in full. I'm going to go with practicing in full with 2 games left. Why are you going to risk DeAndre Swift unless you think not only not that they're it's not just that he's practicing in full. They're bringing him back. 2 games left, he needs to be 100%, and this is telling me they think he's 100%.
Yeah, I mean, why else would you play him, right?
So many whys.
I guess we have to assume that they feel totally comfortable that there's no elevated re-injury risk related, right? Everyone who steps foot on a football field has an injury risk, but they don't think there's any elevated re-injury risk by bringing him back for these last 2 completely meaningless games. On the Lamar note, who's the worst quarterback you're starting over Lamar if he does indeed be able to play against the Rams this week? Who do you got, Jake?
I'll give you do you want 10 and 11?
Why not?
Wait, no,
wait.
Oh, yeah, because I have 12.
Give him the down south guy, and I'll do the other one.
The down south guy, geographically
or
numerically?
I assume so.
Okay.
Tua Tagovailoa.
No, Trey
Matt
Lance.
Ryan.
Trey Lance.
Oh, he's not geographically. Taysom Hill.
San Francisco.
Taysom Hill is further south than New Orleans.
How many
Taysom Hill behind
cities,
Lamar Jackson.
Do you know where San Francisco is? How many NFL cities are north of San Francisco?
That's what I'm saying. North of him is the other one was Joe Burrow. Then I'll talk about Joe Burrow. You said down south. I'm not starting Taysom Hill.
I thought you were going to go Taysom Hill
like
or
Atlanta
or
or Miami.
I thought you had
know.
Taysom Hill.
I know.
New Orleans.
Thank you, Bella. Like, how much further
I'm
south
with
do you want to go?
Funston. Much
No.
farther. No one says down south and thinks San Francisco or Cincinnati. No one in the world.
But when you're saying down south, and those are the two options, he said
Clearly,
pick the guy further
you had
south.
Other options.
Yeah, I thought you were going Taysom Hill or Trey
Cincinnati
Lance.
is definitely south of San Francisco, just for the record, without question.
You sure?
100%.
Go look. I want to know the latitude number.
Cincinnati's pretty far south. They're like, aren't they like Mason-Dixon line kind of?
Right on the Ohio River, just north of Louisville, Kentucky.
Anyway, all right, fine. Then I'll talk about Joe Burrow. I'm starting Joe Burrow from Lamar Jackson. I just don't trust. Like even before we saw that video yesterday, 2 weeks of not even being close to playing the game, and I even said it last week on this show about Lamar Jackson. Is if you're taking away the running, the passing has not been good. The passing's been Taysom Hill to a degree, actually even worse sometimes. It's been a better year overall passing from Lamar Jackson, but I say where it's not been good. It's not been good enough to carry him in fantasy, and that's the problem. Is if you're only getting one touchdown, if you're only getting 250 yards, if you're not running, look, Lamar Jackson's still 12, so he's still startable, but I'm starting Joe Burrow even in a much worse matchup, and even though I'm not playing the recency bias of don't forget the 4 games before Joe Burrow just went ballistic.
Yeah,
I have some horrible news to report before your guy Funston. Cincinnati is slightly north of San Francisco. 39 degrees something, and San Francisco's 37.
Wow.
Damn it.
Yeah, I would have bet on Cincinnati being further south.
This sucks. All right, go ahead, Funston.
Yeah, mentality-wise, they're way further south than San Francisco.
Definitely.
All right, so yeah, Trey Lance. Trey Lance was the other guy Jake was going to go with, and he
geography for the idiots.
Do you want me to tell you what about Trey Lance?
Yeah, let's hear about Lance.
Basically, going to give you probably Lamar Jackson numbers. I mean, he had 89 rushing yards his last time out as the guy, and that's probably in play this week. Lamar Jackson, if you watch the video on Twitter or wherever, you can see that he is not 100%. He's not going to probably give you 89 rushing yards. Trey Lance much more likely. He's got good weapons. I think he had 190 passing yards. He throws for 190 passing yards and a touchdown. You throw in what he does on the ground. I think that's going to beat out what Lamar Jackson will give you.
Going to give some quick credit here.
No, where's Indianapolis?
South?
They might be Souther. Souther? Is that even a word?
more southern.
I know Cincinnati and Indianapolis, for what it's worth, are the two closest.
What did you say San Francisco
NFL
was?
cities.
What was the
right
latitude?
here, like Jiggles has got it, 37.3 degrees north.
There you go.
Santa Clara, but San Francisco was about the same.
Hey, I know my geography. Indianapolis is more souther. It's 39.76.
Yeah, fun fact, Cincinnati and Indianapolis, the two NFL cities closest to each other. How about that?
There you go.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Do you have the distance? Can you pull that out?
I don't. I remember hearing it years ago and just always thought it was fun, so I've got it.
How are the Jets and the Giants not winning that one?
I guess that, right. That's literally true. But for ones that aren't literally the same city, then it's
or
Cincy
the
and
same stadium, or literally
yeah, right, where we share.
Isn't South Bend closer to Chicago than it is to Indianapolis or something like that too?
I would bet that's true. I don't know that for sure, but I would bet that's true. It's really not that far. Yeah.
Let's continue.
All right, guys, I've got a fun one here. I was really trying to come up with something.
More fun than geography?
Well, very few things are more fun than geography, if we're being honest. But I was trying to come up with a little, start, sit, cut, something like that, but something different for us, for this group of running backs. And so I came up with nice, ice, and spice. Nice means he's a start for sure. Ice, sit unless desperate. Spice, right? Spicy. Some people like things spicy. Some people don't. Spices are all different. So basically, that's someone who could go either way. Worse than a locked-in starter. Worse than nice. But better than a desperation play. Better than ice. So let's move through these guys quickly. Nice, ice, or spice. What do we got for Cordero Patterson, Jake?
So let's see. Spice can be worse than
nice
ice?
is for sure start. Ice is only start if desperate. Spice is in between that.
Oh, no, then I'm going ice. I got to go super ice. I want Iceman over here. Cordell Patterson, I did not want to start last week. Hey, I mentioned this, and I even said it to you guys, as he's turned into a lead running back first and second down only. Not getting passing game work, not even getting great run opportunities because they're still throwing him on sweeps and all that. And then he's had a touchdown, even with the touchdown, barely had a good game. I want to not start Cordell Patterson this week any way possible.
I will give him a little bit of spice. I would throw him into my flex spot. I am not. And again, it's because I don't understand. What are you saving him for? What's the point? Like, why are we limiting our best offensive player all season long? This is a game where they'll probably get their butt kicked. I mean,
if it was 2 weeks, I'd be with you, but this is now like 6 weeks in a row.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's not 6 weeks in a row of bad production, and even in limited, he's still a guy that has a decent upside for a touchdown. So, I'm gonna say Spice. I'm gonna say Flexi Spice.
All right, Jake or Funston. I mean, who do you got? Excuse me. What do you got for Dare Ogunbowale?
Yeah, this is probably similar to Cordero. It's one of us is gonna say ice, one of us is gonna say Spice. I will say Spice. Because I mean, they're going to probably mix in some other running backs here, but he was the guy, stepped up. He is going to be the starter. He has some receiving skills. I could talk myself into a flex play with him.
No, it's nice, and I would start him over Rex Burkhead, who people are going to try and throw out there as we made the joke. And somebody appreciated the joke we made about the licking the tears away on the Monday show. Look, it really comes down to what you just said, Funston. He's going to be the guy. Sargent, big guy. Maybe he gets some of the goal line. That could ruin things. He gets goal line runs, but he's also coming off a practice squad onto this team. The Goon's been there for a while. It's nice to see Armstead back, but it'd be nice if Armstead could just stay healthy just for his career. But the Goon looks like he's the guy, and this is more of a matchup too, is that the pass-catching running back should be a better option than Sargent anyway, even if it was a 50-50 split. So I think Goon is nice. I can see it going sideways. I have Patterson and Goon 2 spots apart. That's how close I have them.
Hey, the Goon's going to be watching the Las Vegas Bowl tonight. He's a proud Badger.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what's your thoughts on the Goon? He's a former Badger.
Yeah, I like him. I like him in this spot too. I think for all the reasons Jake said, that I would probably play him over Patterson just because of the recent trend we've seen for Patterson and what we can expect for Ogunbowale's role in this game against the Patriots. Again, 15.5-point favorites. I think he's going to have a big role to play for the Jags this week. We hit on a couple of guys who I had in this list, Jordan Howard and Michael Carter, also Boston Scott. So how about A.J. Dillon? What do you got for A.J. Dillon, Jake? Nice, ice, or spice?
Very close to nice, so I'll give him spice with a little bit of nice sprinkles on it because it really comes down to this. We've seen the split. It's been leaning in the entire time. Even when he first came back, we talked about it. Aaron Jones was the lead. That game got out of hand, so they didn't need to risk him in his first game back. But he's still the lead. He's still the option. I think you see a little bit more running in this game because of the weather we talked about, but because of the temperatures. That does lean a little bit more to the run game. If there was wind and precipitation, I would say definitively lean towards the run game. But I think you could say Dillon is in play as a flex option, as he has been for most weeks, honestly.
Yeah, this is what they always talked about with A.J. Dillon. Oh, those December games where it gets cold in Lambeau Field, he's perfectly built for that. And I sort of buy into that it at least is going to lean into him a little bit more than usual. And last time we faced Minnesota, it was 11 carries, 53 yards on the ground. He weirdly had 6 catches in that game. I'm not seeing that, but I can see him maybe getting 60-plus rushing yards and a touchdown in this game. So I'm going to say nice.
All right, Funston, take this one away first. Deontay Foreman, nice ice spice.
I will say spice. He's kind of falling into the range with some of these other guys like Goon, like Cordero Patterson. They're in that mix and that kind of mid to back end top 30 overall running back. So don't love the matchup. It's okay. I'm just gonna say spice.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I don't really have much to say. I'm at 28. I think he's in that risk conference. He's the lead, but it's not the greatest.
Where does Devontae Freeman, fall for you, Jake?
Oh, he's less spice. He's bad spice. I don't want to.
Scary
because
spice.
He's Cordero Patterson, same thing, but worse opportunity potential because without a touchdown, his day has been pretty miserable too. This is something I talked about with Funston knows this when I did my 10 best calls and 5 worst calls. Is sometimes chasing the backfield that split with a rushing quarterback just makes things even worse than they are anywhere else. So yeah, I don't want to play Devontae. I'm not looking to play Devontae. I don't think most people in championships or playoffs were even relying on Devontae Freeman, honestly.
I'm trying to think of a lesser spice. What is that, like cumin or something? Like what?
Sporty.
Sporty.
All the Spice Girls.
Sporty
Cumin's decent.
Sporty sounds
Cumin's
good. Cumin's decent.
Cumin,
Yeah.
Cumin's nice and a
I
cumin
kind of
and
like most all spices. I was trying to think of a spice I don't like. There's not very many out there, apparently.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. Little spice.
Merrick.
Spice is great in life. How about Tony Pollard? Last one. Tony Pollard. What do you got, Funston?
Close to ice. Close to not close to ice. Close to nice. I'll say a top level spice. How's that?
Ooh, top level spice.
Top level spice. It's
Well,
like
if
it's
you're
like a
coming to
spice.
me,
It's
you
like
know,
that spice mix,
Like
where you get,
paprika.
like, the garlic and onion, like that kind of like that's everything.
Like the
bagel
Trader
kind of
Joe's everything
spice.
bagel
Yeah.
mix.
Yep. Exactly.
What do you got here, Jake?
I was gonna say, if you're gonna ask me, it's the nicest of all spices. So I don't know what he's cinnamon sugar. Is that what he is? He's the best
Ooh.
spice. He's the nicest,
best.
nice of all
Sweetest,
nices.
yes.
But still,
It's
still
Tony
spice.
Pollard.
He's
He's
not
the best
quite
person
nice.
in the history of no, look, he's in the same conversation as AJ Dillon. He's a flex running back. This is a game that, like I mentioned earlier when we talked about your run on Arizona, you could see them go more that direction than what Dak just did last week. So I think Pollard is just as much as in play as AJ Dillon is.
All right, there you go. Nice ice spice. I'm so happy I thought of this week 17, right? Like, what better time to think of a fun new segment than December 30th? Awesome. We'll put it in mothballs and bring it back next August. 3 wide receivers, you guys. Give me 3 wide receivers you would have to have on your team for Amon-Ra St. Brown to be on your bench this week. What do you got, Funston?
Well, I mean, you could go off to the top and the Justin Jefferson,
Yeah,
Cooper Kupp. But here's a receiver I would say that I would actually start over him, and I think they're pretty similar. Jalen Waddle. I have him just slightly ahead of Amon-Ra St. Brown. Loved how he looked last week. Liked the matchup against Tennessee. I guess with Amon-Ra St. Brown, you can't argue what he's done. There's the one question: if DeAndre Swift is there, it could be 10 catches for DeAndre Swift against the Seahawks. It could change. The being the go-to guy from Amon-Ra St. Brown to DeAndre Swift.
Yeah, I'll kind of just name the ones right in front of him and just put it this way. He's 17 this week. So it's Tyler Lockett, Jalen Waddle, and Hunter Renfrow. But that's where he is now. Those are the names he's alongside. If you go a little bit higher, now you're talking about Deontay and CeeDee Lamb.
We going to be drafting
Jamar
him as a
Chase.
top 20 receiver next year?
Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Yeah.
I think it depends on what they do with the rest of their team. Yeah. But I think that I'd say at least top 30. Because you got to remember, Mike Williams is sitting. If they bring in Mike Williams, now you're going to have 2 nice wide receivers there. And not that Amon-Ra St. Brown can't repeat, but that's just also what if Jared Goff's still the quarterback? Now you have 2 options. So that's kind of thing. But I would say definitively top 30.
All right, guys, just a couple more things before we call it an episode here. Josh Allen right now enters Week 17 as the QB1. He is 5 points ahead of Kyler Murray. He is 10 points ahead of Aaron Rodgers, and we're talking just standard 4 points for a passing touchdown, 25 yards gets you a point, passing yards gets you a point, standard obviously on the ground, all that. Josh Allen, the QB1. He was the QB1 last year. The last time we had someone repeat as QB1 was Dante Culpepper was the QB1 in fantasy leagues in 2003 and 2004. Jake, is Josh Allen the first guy since Culpepper 17 years ago to repeat as QB1?
100%. If I could bet this in Vegas, I would. There's no way. And mostly because if you said number 2 was Brady and 5 points, saying, okay, maybe. Patrick Mahomes, maybe.
Mahomes is 12 points back for what it's worth. 12, 13, somewhere right in there.
That's again, you have to be within. Like,
you need a
say
back
single
game
digits.
from Allen to make up that much.
Because that's the thing is you need Allen to go out there and score like 12, and then of course you need like a 30-point game. So that could happen with Patrick Mahomes. Maybe I'd say so. I didn't know if Patrick Mahomes was that close. I'd say now you give me like a 10% chance of it happening. But Josh Allen's facing Atlanta, and again the second place one is the problem. It's the issue we've run into this entire year is. Even Funston will say this. I know you'll say it. Funston is like, you weren't expecting the rush. As much as you said he wasn't going to run this year, we weren't expecting it to be this bad for Kyler Murray. Half his yards per carry, half his rush attempts. He's just not running, and I think that's the biggest issue is that Kyler Murray's the next one behind him, and I don't see Murray being the one to pass him.
Yeah, and I guess it might just be that the fact that he's repeating is more of an indictment of what the quarterback position was this year. We had like weeks of disappointment from all the top guys. And so we won't be remembering this year as the year of the quarterback for sure. But I'm with Jake. I think he absolutely will repeat.
I know the answer to this question is yes, but I'm just going to ask it in exactly this way anyway. You guys remember how awesome Culpepper was those seasons, like peak Dante Culpepper? Remember how much fun he was?
I mean, also that Randy Moss guy. So that
Jake Reed, Randy Moss.
I mean, Moss was like, that was.
I was
Robert,
just looking.
Robert
the
Smith.
thing is, too,
Robert Smith.
Robert
Those Vikings
Smith.
Vikings are like a sneaky, fun fantasy team for like 2 decades going here. Like they've always given us something good.
And then what happened? They went
Lamar
like 15
Jackson
and 1 one year.
Check.
Well, yeah, when they were the best team in the NFL.
And they lose
Morton
to
Anderson
Josh
missed one
Allen's
kick all season.
So my point that I'm trying to make here for Josh Allen, he's 2 points per game better on a per game basis. I was kind of
than
curious
last year.
No, than anybody else this year.
Okay.
That was kind of
worse
curious.
than last year.
Yeah. Because when you said that it's been a disappointment, we had that Kyler Murray missed time, Lamar Jackson's missed time, Hurts missed a game, Aaron Rodgers missed a game with the toe or COVID or both or whatever it might be. But that's what I was curious about. I was just curious. That's a pretty big gap, a 2-point gap for a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
It's a big gap. He's only half a point per game worse than he was last year, which I would have guessed it was more. Josh Allen.
That's impressive too.
Yeah. All right, guys. One more question. As we know, 2021 coming to an end. 2022 right around the corner. What's your New Year's resolution? Fantasy football New Year's resolution for 2022. Fantasy football related.
Go ahead, Funston.
Okay, so it's not going to be a lesson to learn kind of thing. I've been saying like 2021 fantasy football. I feel like would take it out like Office Space with the printer out into the middle of a field and beat it to death with a baseball bat. But my resolution
Damn, it feels good to be a gangster.
We talked about it earlier in the year, Beller, is to come up with some kind of a way to get the highest, like make points scored. One of the ways to get a playoff team in your league instead of like, it stands out for me because I was the 3rd highest scoring team in the league and didn't make the top 6 for the playoffs. So
that's how I like it, though. I don't want.
I'm
I
gonna
want
figure
like,
something out. I don't like that.
Guarantee a spot for the top 3-point scorers. Don't put someone who has the 6th most points in the league in over someone else who has the 7th most points, but a better record.
Right,
I can get on board with top 3-point scorers are guaranteed a spot in the playoffs.
Okay, maybe that's it. That's my pitch to my league. In addition to pitching them that we're going to finally move our 12-team leagues over to Superflex, we got to get ourselves into the modern era. They've pushed back on that for years. I'm going to try to make that finally happen this year.
So wait, but to be clear, so are you saying that you don't like the 6th seed being most points scored of the remaining 7 teams?
I do not. I can get on board with like if you're in the top 3 in points scored, then no matter what your record is, you're in the playoffs. But I don't think that someone who has 20 more points, someone who goes 5-9 and has 20 more points than someone who goes 7-7 is like locked in for sure better than them and deserves to be in the playoffs ahead of them.
Oh, see, and I don't think it's usually only 20 points. That's why I like it.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, here's the big thing that really takes that out of the equation, though, I'll tell you, is as much as we do both of these in my home league, and I've been saying this since, the day I've been in the industry, so over 10 years now, is I think once ever have we had to put the 6th place team as the most points scored from the remaining 7 because when you play double headers, it doesn't even come into play. So play double headers. Everybody says this every single year. Double headers, double headers.
I'm assuming that flex, which you put together so well every single year, isn't double headers because our operator does not allow double headers. Is that right?
So
we've been doing
operator does. No. Operator does. Right. I will tell you why we don't, but why we will next year is because I'm telling David Ganos, love him, very much a good friend of ours, real life friend and everything like that. He's kicking rocks next year. So the reason because the very first thing he said, flex leagues are supposed to be for the experts, but for everybody at home to watch us and learn from us. He's like, so don't do a 3rd point scoring for a reception and first downs. And it's like, basically don't make it so people can't learn anything from it.
I like that.
But now my pushback is kind of what you don't have to not learn anything from doubleheaders. First of all, that's how you should be playing. Second of all, it doesn't change draft strategy. It doesn't change anything. So yes, we are doing doubleheaders next year, and we're moving to the sleeper app next year.
All right, beautiful. I've never done anything on that app, so I'm excited. I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna break through. I've had good teams every year, but I've never quite broken through in flex.
We'll get through next year. Yes, and for everybody out there, doubleheaders is not a second opponent in the league. It's the top half scores get an extra win, the bottom half scores get an extra loss. So second highest scoring team. Worst case scenario, you go 1-1.
Yeah.
By the way, Jake, I think lead by example with the flex league. If a third point for whatever is the way to go,
No, we're not
do
doing
it.
that stuff.
Let's
No.
not.
I hate that stuff. I hate that stuff.
Oh, come on.
No, I agree with you though, but that's why we've never done kickers. I said from day one, I don't care what anybody says. Kickers are not going to be in flex ever.
What's worse, 2 catcher in baseball or tight end premium in fantasy football?
Oh,
I
they're
think tight
both
end
equal.
Premier.
You can
Yeah.
you can both take a long walk off a short pier for that one on both of them.
Oh, I am 100% with you, Jake. I've got a New Year's resolution too. I try to stick to this every year. I'm really going to go for it in a stronger way next year. I want every single one of my players with perhaps a Jonathan Taylor style of exception to have a good quarterback on his team. I want to be tied to good quarterbacks. All I care about, my entire focus in 2022 drafts is going to be pick guys who play with good quarterbacks. And from there, yards and touchdowns and points will flow.
Is this
Because
is
that's
this
what
is
matters.
your Saquon Barkley, Terry McLaurin team?
This is my exactly. Allen Robinson, get out of here. None of those guys. I don't care how good they are individually. If they're not tied to a good quarterback, he is not going to be on my team next season. So there you go. My New Year's resolution for 2022. Thank you, everyone, for joining us all season long. As we said, this is our last episode like this. This is the last episode the three of us are going to do together for a while because I'm going on paternity leave next week, so I will be gone for a couple of months. This show will stay. This show will have 2 episodes next week. It'll be these 2 guys with Nando, and then Nando doing his usual episode with Chris Vaccaro and Brandon Marianne Lee. And then the week after, through the Super Bowl, 1 episode a week, Nando, Jake, and Brandon will go off the air for a couple of weeks after the Super Bowl. And then when we come back, I'm back from paternity leave as well. So I just want to say, first and foremost, a big thank you to you 2 guys for being with me all season long, for doing this. It's a lot of fun to do this show with you guys. And I think we put together our best season yet. So big thank you to Brandon Funston. Big thank you to Jake Seeley. And then, of course, all of our listeners, all of our YouTube viewers, thank you to you guys as well. We love getting together and talking about football, but we wouldn't be able to do it if we didn't have people on the other end of our microphones listening to this. So a huge thank you to all of you who have been with the Athletic Fantasy Football Podcast all season long. We hope that you've had fun and that we've helped you get some championship games along the way as well. Jake's got a duck. There you go. I mean, how do we sign off on anything other than that? So one last time in the 2021 season, for Jake Seeley, for Brandon Funston, I am Michael Beller. We say a huge, hearty thank you to all of you for being with us all season long. Good luck this weekend. Let's all go out and get those wins. And this week, get those championship trophies. We'll talk to you.